Hello, hello. What is up, everyone? Welcome, 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 welcome. As you guys know, this is Unscripted Intelligence, a podcast where we talk about human intelligence, artificial intelligence, how they intersect, and how they impact everything from education to the workforce.
On this podcast, we interview innovators, thought leaders, and change makers who are making waves and shaking things up. These are live conversations that are uncharted and unfiltered as we create space for what isn't typically discussed. And always, these conversations are
Unavoidable.
Oh.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this episode of the podcast.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Michelle Ament, the co-president of the Human Intelligence Movement and the chief academic officer for ProSolve. The Human Intelligence Movement is a grassroots organization that is dedicated to ensuring that we have the human skills essential for succeeding and thriving in our AI-driven world.
Yes, and my name is Arvin Ross. I'm the immersive learning designer and facilitator for the Human Intelligence Movement, as well as the co-founder of ProSolve.
And this is our special series called The Unavoidables. And what we are all about on this series is coming back to conversations we've had in the past and that were unavoidable, that were unfinished, and rekindling some of those topics and having a deep discussion between Arvin and myself.
Yes, you guys know we normally have 2 guests, sometimes 3 guests here on the podcast live. This is the time for us to reflect over some of those conversations. So many times these guests have gotten on here and they've dropped just these nuggets, these just bombs of knowledge, and we don't have enough time in a 45-minute episode to unpack all of it. So our thought process is, hey, let's do a whole series just looking back at some of those ideas and kind of processing it. So as always, this is a community conversation, okay? It's a chance for us to come together, challenge ideas, challenge what thoughts are floating around. And so as a part of that, you watching live are a part of the conversation. So do me a favor, if you're watching live right now, go ahead and toss in the chat your name, where you're watching from, and a weird or interesting fact about yourself, and join into this conversation.
I hate it when you do weird and interesting facts. I mean, you do it all the time, and I'm always like, what is weird and interesting about myself? And is weird the same as interesting, or are you really giving people a choice?
It's a choice. It is absolutely a choice. And most people will just do the interesting thing because, saying what's weird about yourself doesn't oftentimes make for the best introducting.
No. Anyway, I have learned some about people, some really interesting and weird things about them. So, Arvin, what's something weird or interesting about you?
Okay. I have a deep obsession with chihuahuas. I can't explain it, but
what?
Yeah, I have a deep obsession with chihuahuas. I love chihuahuas, my favorite creature on the whole planet. In fact, my wife won't let me get a chihuahua because she is fully aware that the day I do, I will probably disappear and just be feeding my chihuahua, walking my chihuahua, dressing her up and painting her fingernails and doing all the things.
Like a man purse for your dog.
100%, absolutely, no doubt.
What is the name of your chihuahua?
I don't have a chihuahua. I'm not allowed to have a chihuahua but if I did,
had one, what would you name it?
Oof, I don't know, probably Tinky or Tinkerbell or something like that. I don't know. It depends on how she looks or how he looks. It's that kind of thing.
I was going to say his joining us, and something about her is that she has an adorable whippet, and she's signed up to foster a greyhound. Those dogs need a lot of like walks and stuff, I think. So they'll be perfect for her whippet.
Yikes. What is a weird fact about you, Michelle?
Well, Mark is here, of course, from
Mark.
East Coast, Florida. And a weird fact is he likes hot coffee even when it's a zillion degrees out, like it is in Florida where he is, which I would agree. I don't know if this is weird. I think it's interesting if people know me that I spent several summers when I was in college as a camp counselor. it at a camp that was very rustic, and there was no running water, no electricity. So we cooked all of our food over the campfire, bathed in the local river. So it was like
Yuck.
the,
What?
right, the entire summer, no running water, no electricity, and we gave kids an amazing immersive experience in that kind of environment. So we slept in tents, campfires every night.
Wow. I don't know about weird. I would say that is sketchy. Sketchy is the word I would use. Decision making. It's just weird.
I think people who know me realize that, like, I'm more of a glamping kind of a gal these days if I were to go camping.
Right. Speaking of glamping, to today's topic. So like I said earlier, guys, this whole series is all about, going back to some of the core ideas, thoughts, things that were said that we didn't have time to unpack in other series. And so today, for today's episode, we want to dig deep and talk about the productive struggle. Okay. Productive struggles. Sometimes you guys have probably heard me say prod strugs or prod strods. That is what we want to talk about. We want to talk about what exactly does productive struggle mean? How do you identify it? Any idea or concept surrounding it? We've been in some conversations on this podcast where I think we even had people commenting in the live chat, kind of disagreeing with us that struggle could be harmful to children's development and I think that we reached somewhat of an agreement on that last episode that this topic surfaced on. But I think it's worth digging in a little bit deeper and talking about productive struggle and what that means.
I think it's especially important right now because the hot topic around this is that productive struggle is decreasing because we have AI to solve our problems, to do our thinking. And so really the question at hand is, what does it mean to maintain that productive struggle? Because I think we'd all recognize that learning happens at that zone of proximal development, that zone of proximal growth, that sweet spot of struggle. And if we're removing that and not bringing that into our lives, what does that mean?
Well, for one, I love that you say that. But I feel like we have to start kind of at the baseline. So everybody in the chat, if you can define how you would define what productive struggle means, that would be awesome. We'll probably read some of those and then share kind of the definitions we're landing on. But I think after we define it, Michelle, I think we also have to answer some really tough questions about who gets to make that determination about when the struggle is too much. How do we identify that? Are there observables? Are there qualities? Are there characteristics of when you begin to cross that zone of proximal development? Like, I feel like there's a lot of this that could be subjective, and maybe you might have some information or data to throw out here, or maybe some viewers might. But I feel like we probably need to spend some time defining, what are we talking about? What are the parameters? When we say struggle, what does that mean?
Well, I want to hear from you. I think one of the best ways to to understand something and define something is thinking about examples. So when is a time you've recently had productive struggle? Or I guess, when have you been in struggle? And then when was it? And because there's struggle and then there's productive struggle.
Mm-hmm. Good question. For one, I feel like I've been in struggle all my life. All my life I had to fight. No, I'm just kidding. But really though, you guys know, I've shared kind of some of my story. Struggle in adversity is not something that I am, a foreigner to. It's something that has marked a lot of my journey, and I would not change any of it for the world, to be honest with you. So if I was to try to answer that question, Michelle, I would probably say that for me, like the struggle, how I would define it, a productive struggle, is making an attempt to do something or making an attempt at something, encountering a measure of resistance, a measure of friction, a measure of tension, or even a measure of negative feedback while you're doing that thing, or right closely, like after completing that thing. And then you having the time or ability to reflect and metacognitively take something out of that situation that's positive.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm trying my hardest to use very generic terms, because I do feel like productive struggle can apply to anything, not just education. I do think that it is a far-reaching concept. And so I think the only way to define it properly is to define it with a level of ambiguity that kind of like belies the essence of it. Does that make sense?
Christina said, failing forward, productive struggle is an important part of learning a new skill. You can't get good at something until you figure out what doesn't work. I love that. I love that inverse, right? So we can't expect to be good at something until we failed or we figured out why it doesn't work or how to make it better. Mark is saying, in an educational environment, I think of productive struggle as the conditions to encourage students to learn by doing and to feel safe failing and trying again. And I do, and Dr. Alice is here, which she was the one last time that really brought some insights to this idea around productive struggle, because I do think in the educational environment, and as educators, we talk about this zone of proximal development, knowing exactly, maybe not exactly, but knowing well how far to kind of challenge students so that they can feel a measure of success, so that they can maintain that growth mindset. So it's not that failure isn't something, but it's also putting just enough challenge so you learn that next thing, just enough challenge so you learn the next thing, and you continue to grow. I mean, it makes sense. Like, one of the things, like if you don't have a solid number sense and now you're expected to learn algebraic equations, there's a level of frustration and you're maybe not going to be successful. Like too much productive struggle. So I do think that in education, we think about that. I think in I was going to say the real world.
Yeah, that's you need to unpack that at some point.
That's a whole episode right there.
Yeah, I just felt that happen right there.
But what does it mean in our world, in our day-to-day lives? Like, is it different in the sense that I feel like you can go a little bit further with productive struggle. You can go a little bit further with struggle and still have it be productive. And maybe that's the difference between adults and children. I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny you're saying this, because as you're kind of talking about it, I see two definitions that can both be wrong. I was tempted to say that productive struggle is when you're encountering a struggle that you have the tools to succeed, right? But I think that's false, or I think that's what we call false wisdom. Hashtag callback to previous episodes, because it is very possible that you have the tools to succeed. You do succeed or you don't succeed, and you do not necessarily learn anything from it. And I think what that definition is lacking is the piece about reflection and like metacognition. You know what I mean? And so at the same time, I hope I'm not sounding crazy with this, but another false definition would be this idea of having a struggle that you like just have the time to reflect on it, like even if you fail. And that's false, because I feel like a characteristic of productive struggle is you have to have the ability to reflect on it, and you have to have some sort of tools to see your way through the struggle so that you're not caught in the struggle. I hope I'm making sense. Maybe I'm not.
Well, I think Jason says productive struggle is the perception shift into belief, and from belief emerging knowledge. It's very philosophical.
I need to read that again.
Yeah, the perception shift into belief, and from belief emerging knowledge. Dr. Alice says productive struggle is a part of learning. It should have some support, such as some prior knowledge, rationale, feedback, and a good questioning to make thinking visible. And
I love it.
So we can unpack Jason's definition for sure. I think I'm connecting what Alice said to what you're saying, that you can sit in the suck and be in struggle and come out on the other side and not grow or learn from it if you don't have some sort of reflection, metacognition, making what happened visible to you so that you learn, you're building resilience, you're building perseverance, you're figuring out what skills you might need to add. So I think for me, at least, the need to have some sort of opportunity to make what happened visible, to make thinking visible, to make reflection visible. And then I go to the question of who teaches you how to do that? Is that like an innate thing? Do you just reflect and learn? Or is that a process thing that there's scaffolds to help you do that so that it becomes there's a level of automaticity, and next time you struggle that you're automatically thinking, what can I learn from this?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't even know that I would attempt to answer that for me, or answer that from an academic standpoint. I think in an anecdotal standpoint, for me, I can probably say confidently that I've seen both nature and nurture play a role in answering that question. I've seen individuals who, like, I have an 18-year-old right now, a kid that I mentor, who is he is literally going to be president someday. The dude is just leagues beyond me, like anybody, like is able to tackle incredibly complex challenges and problems that literally he does not have the teaching, like no degree, like, but can just figure stuff out. And then we have people in their 40s, 50s, 60s who see something difficult and just still cannot, like, muster up the courage, or the efficacy to give it a shot. So I think it's probably a mixture of nature and nurture. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to talk a little bit about when you say nature, nurture. I think there is the nurture part, and how do you create conditions for that productive struggle. So some of the conditions I think you need is this feeling of psychological safety, that it is okay if I struggle and fail at it. I think there's also this expectation that you're going, whether we call it growth mindset or proximal growth, that you won't have the answer today. You shouldn't know today, and you are going to grow and learn from it. And also the ability to learn, the learning agility to know, I know how to learn from this. And I think all of that, we talk a lot about humans who adapt and adaptability. All of that lives in the adaptability, which you talk a lot about adaptability. So I'm curious if productive struggle, the backbone is being adaptable.
Gosh, Michelle, I think you just said a lot in 30 seconds. I want to answer that question, but I really want to shift in this conversation to something you said, which was the conditions of productive struggle. I don't even know where I want to go with this, but maybe I want to ask the audience to if you're here in the chat, describe in the best that you possibly can what you think the conditions for a productive struggle is. Give me some observables. What are you seeing? What are you feeling, or what is the person seeing and feeling? If you have an example of a productive struggle or a productive struggle condition that you've created or that you've seen modeled with success, please comment in the chat now. Michelle, when you say conditions for productive struggle, of course, I think back to the framework that we've developed. You've poured sweat and tears into in terms of the human skills framework and the conditions for human skills. Can you speak a little bit more to specifically conditions for productive struggle?
Yeah, I think I rattled off a couple. I mean, I think one is psychological safety. I think whether it's in the classroom or the workplace or even your personal day-to-day relationships, are the conditions there for you to take a risk, to be vulnerable? I don't know how to do this, or I'm struggling with this, or I don't understand. I think too often when we don't have those conditions for psychological safety, then people don't speak up. They're not willing to acknowledge that they're in struggle. And I think some of that comes, like when we think about systems, and I've talked about this before, when we talk about systems where the leader in the system feels like they need to have all the answers and be certain, that they're creating, and they display that credibility means that they are the smartest people in the room. That doesn't create psychological safety for others to not know or to struggle, because even if it well-intentioned, what they're bringing forward is this idea that you better show up knowing, you better show up certain, you better show up with the answers, and if not, the struggle piece is not maybe as doesn't show that you're smart enough, that you're, I mean, you've battled with this. Yeah. I've watched you do it where you've struggled with something and I hear words like, I'm not as smart, or I don't know, or like, there's almost like, even if you aren't, it's like this unconscious comes out that struggle means not enough or something.
Yeah.
I keep going. And I think that's because you haven't had the environment to be vulnerable and say, I don't know. And someone says, that's okay. Let's figure it out.
100%, Michelle, you could not be more accurate. And the whole time we're talking, I was just messaging Jenna actually, because this is we need to make a stake in the ground here, because I feel like we're tapping into something that probably should become its own episode or its whole own like series or something. When you say psychological safety being a key condition for productive struggle, I'm wrestling with that. Like, I don't disagree. I want to be clear. I don't disagree. I'm wrestling with that because I can think back to times where I did not feel safe in any way, shape, or form, and still had to push through, like straight up trembling, fear, like my career is on the line. I have to go present this thing, and because of fill in the blank, whatever reason, I'm crashing out. And I look back, and although I may not have learned something in that moment, weeks, months later, when I'm getting some feedback from Travis, or I'm having a moment to actually sit and reflect, I can see myself still learning so much in the absence of feeling safe in that moment. So I'm wrestling with that component just a little bit, not saying I think it's wrong. I don't know that I have enough context to fully understand what you mean when you say
okay, so here's what I don't think it has to be a safe environment to have struggle. Struggle happens. I think the psychological safety comes to normalize struggle and to not feel like you have to put up like airs or pretend that or that you can just be authentic, and psychological safety creates the conditions to normalize struggle. And I think that's what makes it productive.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because you cannot agree more. And because when I guess I was originally thinking your definition of psychological safety had to be during the time of struggle, but it seems like there is a space where if that psychological safety to process that struggle, that trauma, that whatever happens a week later, that's where that reflection and that touchdown can happen, and that learning can occur. It's not just confined to the moment of the actual struggle. I do love that.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just getting so passionate, because the other thing is like psychological safety to know that it's okay to sit in the struggle. Like, I think we often are like working to try to solve the problem, figure it out, fix it so that we don't have to sit in the struggle. But if it was psychologically safe, like normalized, like expected, that we're going to wrap around the struggle and problem solve and support one another, and that it's okay to be vulnerable, that's a whole different kind of environment for struggle than we got to cover things up or solve or quickly act like we know what we're doing.
Yes, I cannot agree more. Let me say this. I'll let you go to the comments in just a second. But let me say this. I feel I have observed that the generations that are coming up after me have little to no ability to really sit in struggle, to hold two tensions, to hold the idea of discomfort, and sit in it long enough for it to change and to grow and to develop you. I'm finding that older individuals, people who and let me be clear, I don't want to minimize the stuff that young people are dealing with now, or the stuff that I'm 35, the stuff that we have to deal. We've lived through a lot. Okay, I don't want to start names, but we've lived through a lot. But I do feel like the ability to sit in the suck, to sit in the uncomfortable, just anything that makes you feel discomfort. I feel like older people know how to do that, and they know how to do it well. That this is so lacking in younger people. For some reason, we have gotten the idea that all discomfort is bad, and that we should put all of our time and energy to fixing, solving, and moving out of discomfort. And I find that is such an unhealthy, a toxic, and honestly crippling, like crippling idea and concept to really hold and harbor.
Okay, so I do want to go to the comments.
Yeah,
but I first want to ask you why. Why do you think that is? And I also am curious, the folks with us tonight, why do you think it is the case?
I would say very, very easily, and I'm gonna butcher this quote. Jenna, if you can find it and toss it up on the screen, that'd be great. But Jordan Peterson, he has this quote that he says, hard times create strong men create easy times, and easy times create weak men create hard times create strong men. And so it's like this cycle of hard times create strong men and women, and then those strong men and women create easy times. People born and living in those easy times then kind of grow up a little bit weaker, and then because of this sounds so negative and generalistic. Please don't cancel me. But like those weak individuals who can't necessarily. There we go. Yeah. Hard. Yeah. And it's like they create an environment that is, or sorry, strong men and women create this easy environment that then produces individuals who don't know struggle, because all the struggles are taken care of by the strong people. And then those people that don't know how to hold the tension of struggle, they create hard times again. And so that to me is the answer to that question, I think, wrapped up in just a couple of words there.
Well, that wasn't just a couple of words, but it was a good quote that you found. Yeah, I mean, I'm still trying to follow the cycle, but it's like a vicious cycle kind of a thing. Yeah. I think, for me, I don't know. It comes down to a little bit of like normal. There's two things that come up. Why there's maybe less people trying, like digging in to the struggle, being willing to do hard things. Like, is some of it, I always go back to social media. I want to blame everything on social media, but like, is it not normalized? Is like, think about how everybody looks. Everybody is perfect. The world operates like people don't necessarily always show their struggle. So then do you have this perception like I'll think about parenting today. I would think it would be really hard to be a mom of young children today and looking on social media and seeing perfect houses and perfect meals and perfect play dates and perfect everything. And then to be like, get up every day and have struggle, like your house is a mess and your kids aren't behaving and they aren't angels all the time. Yeah. And so is there something there around society and what society has perceived it, so that's, again, have we taken away psychological safety to put ourselves in vulnerable places and show who we authentically are as humans? I think the other thing that comes up for me is everything is so automated and efficient. Like, how do we make everything we do efficient and quick and easy and automated so that we don't really have to work that hard at things? And there's, I don't know if that could be attributing to it as well.
Yes, let's get to the comments. I want to keep going, but there's like 19 comments.
I know. Okay, so I'm going all the way back
Yeah,
to, well, Dr. Alice. She said she agrees with me about psychological safety, that adults need that. So
Dr. Alice hates me. I don't know what I did to you. I don't know what I said to you in some podcasts, but listen, I want to be a friend. Okay, that's it.
She doesn't. Dr. Mark talked back to psychological safety. He talked about trust. Trust between students and teachers and peers to know it's okay to not know and failing on the way to learning something new. And I think we could really talk about our school system and how we don't, like, you've heard me talk about this. We're like, fail forward, failure's good. But yet when kids do fail, what are we doing? Academic recovery, remediation, like, I mean, there's so many things. So let's see. What I love about this chat is like they're talking to each other too. So like we're having this conversation and then they're having a conversation, and now I'm trying to kind of pull out some things here about from the group.
Yeah.
So there was a little bit of talk around low stakes, like how do we create opportunities where there's low stakes? And I think that's an interesting thing to talk about, because what do low stakes mean? And I actually think that is a good place to bring in productive struggle. So okay, so here's what I think about. Like I have a big presentation with our biggest client, and on the line is the biggest account. Mm-hmm. I probably should go into that with a new approach and a new pitch, right, and struggle through that. New computer, so new not low stakes, but maybe there's a new client or a place where I could try something out and struggle a little bit through it. And I think in the classroom we have those instances as well.
I cannot agree more. And, one of the things that I've done a lot in my career is this concept of immersive learning and immersive learning design. And kind of with that this is exactly what we're talking about. It's me using my skills, my experience, my education, whatever, to create an environment that is in reality is low stakes, but to the individuals participating feels high stake. It gets them invested into performing and demonstrating whatever task or skill that it is that we're looking for them to display. But knowing that there's no real world consequences, but because you are such a good storyteller and because you're such a good educator, that you've created an environment that feels real, that feels that brings them into a whole nother universe and gets them bought in and invested to perform the task and to demonstrate the skill. That to me is exactly what Dr. Alice is talking about. It's something that's low stakes, right? Gives them the ability to problem solve or to demonstrate a skill, and has the ability for them to stop and reflect on it. That I could not agree with you more, Dr. Alice.
Well, in this comment, we've moved to more of a compliance-based education where grades matter so much more than curiosity and inquiry. And I'd lift that comment up in relationship to what you said, because you are creating the conditions for curiosity and inquiry in a low-stakes environment, and you are helping people through that kind of environment. You're helping people feel and see what it feels like and be successful with that. I think, where do you want to go next? Do you want me to throw something out, or you got the next idea?
Yeah, you throw something out. I'm still kind of stuck on your conditions, but I think it's okay to move on and move to something else.
Well, I think that like something that I get concerned about is how easy it is to not have struggle with the use of AI. So when we live in an AI world, and I'm thinking really about answers, knowledge, answers, thinking like it's very easy to get the answer and to have knowledge quickly. And I'm just wondering, and also problem solving and getting answers to what you need. It's not that that's a bad thing, but is that robbing us of some struggle? Because I think struggle helps us be resilient, helps us persevere, helps us understand ourselves. be creative. Because if you have to really push yourself to the limit, creativity starts to come out there. So if we don't have to do productive struggle because we have quick answers, does that rob us of some essential skills? And what will that look like?
I would say yes, emphatically, but only in the absence of proper AI teaching and literacy. I think that for me personally, I have in the last 6 months learned more, produced more, created more, been challenged more as a result of my AI use than I think I have in times past, or than I think I have experienced in its absence. But that's only because, again, the idea, my relationship with HI is not, or with AI is not one of going to it to produce the answer and to get the quick answer, but it's a thought partner. Michelle, in a couple episodes ago, maybe 2 or 3 months ago, you mentioned about, we were kind of wrestling the tension of your relationship with HI or relationship with AI. And I think that you really defined it perfectly for me, and it stuck with me. And it's this idea of, I'm looking at artificial intelligence as a thought partner, as a co-creator, and not just an answering machine, or an answer spitting out machine. And to me, I think that one distinction, that one barrier between how I allow AI to exist in my life, 100% still allows for creative struggle to exist.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you remember that. And, we speak about our AI ladder and moving up the ladder to being a creative partner. And probably, I don't know a percentage, but I don't know a lot of people that are doing that level of creating with AI, which takes a whole different level of thinking, a whole different level of struggle. And Jason mentioned in the comments, students need opportunity, maybe productive struggle is students need opportunities to work through meaningful challenges with appropriate support. And Alice said it depends on the task, which I think those go together, because if we think about productive struggle just happens around, do I have the right answer? Am I getting the right answer? Versus, am I creating something new and novel? Am I solving a real world problem? Am I adding value to the world? All of those things have a different level of struggle than what's the right answer here on this test.
100%. And to me, I think it goes back to that immersion piece of, are you able to embed the goal, the purpose, the heart, the end in mind? Are you able to embed that into the student or the participant effectively? Because if you can, there's that quote about the boat in the ocean or the hum of the sea. I love it. But it's that, I probably said that 1,000 times in the last 10 years. So I need to stop saying it. But it is.
I've never heard you talk about the boat in the ocean.
Yes, you have.
The lifting all tides, the boat.
No, it's it was a part of
Here
my.
He goes, Jenny. He's gonna try to quote again. Let's go.
Okay, you know what? Watch this. Okay, if you want to build a boat, do not drum up people to cut wood or to measure wood, stuff like that. to drum up wood or navigate the sea. Instead, instill in them the sound, the hum of the middle of the ocean. And what it speaks to is this idea of, there's one way you can build a boat by telling your whole class, hey, go learn. There you, thank you. Do not drum up people. See, okay. I was mostly good. I was like 70% there. But the concept of the quote is, you can have. Why are you laughing?
There's very little about what you said and what's on that.
No, it's not. I literally said to drum up men to gather wood. I said that to build a boat. I said boat, not ship. And I said teach them to learn for the vast.
Okay, start over. Okay, you got the quote. Let's hear the connection.
Okay, the connection is, instead of teaching the class of students every single thing about how to build a boat. So here's how you cut wood. Here's how you shape it into, the shape of a boat or an oar. Here's how you stitch together a sail. Instead of teaching them every single nuanceable piece of building a boat so they can sail, If I spent an hour getting you to long for the sound of seagulls chirping, if I get you to feel and experience when you close your eyes, the buoyancy in the middle of the ocean, if I can somehow translate to you the smell of salt water in the air, you will go home, you'll leave my classroom, and you'll wake up in the middle of the night and think about how to build a boat. You will spend more time contemplating and thinking about, and then ultimately learning how to get to the place that I painted a vision and painted a picture for, than I could ever teach you. And then more than that, your journey to getting there is going to be your own, and you'll be able to keep it.
I love it. Is that curiosity? Is that agency?
Mm-hmm.
Is that like, think about that. Like, that transfers to so many things. Like, in our current knowledge era, well, we're not in the knowledge era, we're in our current approach to education. This is not how we do things. Instead, we're going to teach you all the things you need to know, because we know what you need to know and where you need to go. And instead, what if it was more focused on curiosity, on inquiry, on sparking enough joy, enough just spark, that then you went out and figured it out yourself. Now that's doing hard things.
Now, Michelle, you're speaking volumes to my heart, because I think one of the biggest shifts that we're seeing from the knowledge age or the information age to the intelligence age, and this is my personal prophetic prophecy, is we're going to see a rekindling of the art of teaching and not the science of teaching. I believe wholeheartedly that the knowledge age required the science of teaching, right? And this is why I honestly kind of even wrestle with some of the conditions or the frameworks that we see out there, is because all of that is systematic. All of that has to do with information and data. And there is something about art, about the artwork of teaching, the artistry, that has nothing to do with data, has nothing to do with information, but has everything to do with intuition, and has everything to do with that imagination. There's something about being able to paint a picture and a fragrance and a sound, an auditory experience, that if I can convey that to you as my student, you are going to do whatever, learn whatever, to get to that place. And I think that's the difference between artwork and science. And I think that's what we're seeing with the rise of artificial intelligence. That's what we're seeing with the need of productive struggle.
And I would just add on to that the art of being human.
Yeah.
Versus the science of being human, right?
Mic drops. That's a bar. I love it. Okay, I need to read some of these comments, Michelle.
Yeah. So, well, Alice, she said she needed to hear that, Arvin. Sometimes she gets too technical. And that's the science of teaching. And I've never met Alice, but she's been on here enough for me to know that she is a really savvy and smart educator. Earlier, she talked about blooms and around like levels of thinking. So she gets the science of teaching. And what is great to get some feedback for you is just kind of pushing that idea. She says, Arvin, you're breaking my heart. Just like we need more of that art of teaching. And I agree. I think we're going to start to see, because, because the art of teaching, in my opinion, is what brings out the human skills, which as we go further and further in this AI world, those are the skills you're going to need. And that's an episode in itself, right?
I want to say this to you, Alice, and to Michelle. I'm getting goosebumps just saying this, about just getting the picture I'm getting right now. An artist can take a bunch of broken paintbrushes and colors that have been messed up and mixed together and watered down, and still create something beautiful out of it. Right? A scientist may not necessarily be able to do the same thing, because there has to be exactness and measurements and different things like that. And I think that the reason why this is even coming up in this episode is because I do feel like a lot of the people who tune into this podcast, all of you who are watching right now, you're ingrained in a system that has probably pulled you away from some of the things that kindled your heart about teaching and learning in the first place, which I think is that artwork. And I do feel like the what's drawn you into this podcast, or into this episode even specifically, is that there's something in you that's calling out and that's crying out for that artwork again, that artistry again, and even us talking about it is causing something to just wake back up inside of you. And so I don't even know what the takeaway is, or what the next step is, but there's something about the human intelligence movement. There's something about this podcast. There's something about the community that is coming together at this time, talking about artificial intelligence and human intelligence, that is hungry and is searching for something that we have not been able to find in a long time.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. And it kind of comes back to I feel like we're at this moment in time to really reclaim what makes us human. And those are those tough conversations. I know today I was in a tough conversation about AI detection and AI use, and it's just, those are the conversations we need to be having in order to really find out, okay, what do we need to reclaim? So you're bringing up the art of teaching, like reclaiming that for the intelligence age, so that we build human skills, looks very different than the age we were in. The science of teaching is important because we needed kids to know knowledge and be able to demonstrate that on an exam. And I would argue we've moved out of the information age, the knowledge age, and now it's about the use of that knowledge, the use of those human skills. And that doesn't come through checklists and the science of teaching.
Yeah, I could not agree more. There's a couple more comments.
Yeah, they're talking a little bit about Play Lab and designing just different agents and different uses of AI. Jason talked about how it teaches general psychology at a local college and helping them understand AI and to use it beyond a web search. And so it is, I love this. Jason gives a big no to AI detection. I'll have to share with you, Jason, the solutions review mesh lab that I facilitated this morning, because basically people were arguing that we should be disclosing our AI use. So if I write a post on LinkedIn, I should say, how did AI support the generation of this post? And I don't know, I left with one aha, that maybe sharing how I used AI can support credibility in my work, because I can say it supported me in evaluating ideas or using judgment at that's higher order thinking. So if AI helped me with higher order thinking, does that help? Anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. Look at the time, though. Should we start are we going to do some unavoidable truths? I mean, the whole episode has been unavoidable truths, but I'm really curious, like, what is your big, like, aha from today? Like, what is your unavoidable thing you're going to sit with after this?
Okay, I'll go first. Everybody in the chat, please do share your unavoidable truths or big takeaways. It always feels a little weird, a little like egotistical when I say that my biggest takeaway is something that I said, but it feels weird. But I genuinely just I didn't know we were going this direction. Like these are so unscripted that but this is just something that I can't get over, and it's the art of teaching and the science of teaching and how that weaves into productive struggle. I think we have, in the knowledge era, attempted to create really good learning environments, and because I think there's a lot of ambiguity around struggle and how there's so many different students or different types of students, that science, the scientific component couldn't really, what's the word I'm looking for, could not really consistently produce productive struggles. Mm-hmm. And I think that this is where we're going to see artists come in, because a true artist can really paint an environment that the conditions for a productive struggle consistently. I don't know if that fully makes sense fleshed out, but that to me, I think is my big aha for today. What about you, Michelle?
Well, I think to build on that, I think where I made a strong connection was the idea that the art of teaching is where human skills are built. And whether we say we're not having science, we're having art of teaching, they both could exist and they have exist. And I think about the times myself as a teacher, building human skills was done in artful situations, in ways where we were using inquiry, in ways where we were exploring, where we were messy. It was not built in, I'm going to tell you all the things you need to know so that you can pass this social studies test at the end of the chapter. And I taught like that. I mean, I taught with the overhead projector and you took notes and then you had the test at the end of the semester. But I also taught like, we're going to discover and go outside and figure out how to build this garden. And, that came where more human skills. So I don't know, I'm making that connection really strong today. I also think that productive struggle, I also think that productive struggle and needing psychological safety, we really like, that's one to come back to, I think, because you really challenge, like, I want to think more about what that means. And also why kids, I think we can have a brushstroke. Kids today don't do hard things. Fine.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean every kid on the planet, but, for the most part, and why is that? And I just think more and more I've gotten to this place where I'm not going to blame the teachers or blame the school system. It's like societal. It is so much bigger than education. And so societally, our society, why do kids struggle less today? Why are they not as willing to do hard things? And I think,
I know we're supposed to be ending, but we cannot end. Sorry, guys, y'all just have to stay on or catch the rest of it later. Jason made a comment earlier that says the issue is that it impacts neurodivergent and ESOL. Jason, can you expound on that, please? Just quickly type as much as you can to give some more context to that. While he is typing that, if you're still here, I want to say this, Michelle, I could not agree more. The issue is societal. I just, while you were talking, I saw three different layers of this. I saw three different layers. One is, can we sit in hard things, right? Is that okay? Do we think that is an okay thing? I think the layer above that is, do we pursue hard things? Do we value hard things? Do we teach our kids? Do we role model the concept of pursuing the more difficult route or the more easier route? Like what societally can we honestly say? Well, when was the last time that we heard a leader or someone that you look up to say, this was really difficult and it wasn't necessary, but I chose the harder path. I chose the more difficult thing on purpose, right? So those are two layers. I think the third layer, unfortunately, is where we're at almost, which is, let's avoid and run away from hard and difficult things, right? And I feel like societally we sit like in between these two things here more than we do like the top layer.
Yeah, that I like the layers. I think there's a couple future conversations around that. I also think coming back to some of these conditions that we need to create. Jason talked about, I think to your neurodivergent question, I meant AI detection software used for papers drastically impacts autistic people or those who are non-native speakers. I would agree with that 100%. And I often think that their score is inaccurate of what they're really producing. And I also read an article that they can get a higher score because of their just a speech pattern or a non-native speaker, and that can be false positive, like that they didn't use AI, but they really did. And so I think either way is detrimental, and putting scores on kids through AI detection or anyone is just That's a whole nother conversation because it just makes me mad. AI detectors make me mad.
So I think Michelle agrees with you. No AI detection. I love it. I love it.
It's
Guys,
just stupid.
this has been a really, really dope. Okay, wait, we got one more from Jason.
Oh, he says they're the ones dealing with the professors saying this is AI generated, but the kicker is the professors don't even know how to recognize that AI is recognizing another AI. It's like suspicious AI.
Yes. You're gonna tell me to never mind. Another conversation for another day. Thank you guys.
I love this conversation. Shout out to Jason, Alice, and Dr. Mark. Did I miss it?
Mark.
We have been hanging with us the entire time. Connections made. I saw emails flying, follow-ups later. That community feel is what we're all about. So love having everybody joining us today.
Yes. I love it. And this was such an awesome conversation. Really quick shout out to Jenna, our podcast producer. All in all, you are the bomb diggity. You guys can catch us this episode and other episodes on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on LinkedIn Live, on YouTube, and a couple of TikToks here or there. We will keep links in the chat, in the comment. If you are interested in sponsoring and partnering with this podcast to help kind of share the message or the conversation about human intelligence and artificial intelligence, please feel free to hop on to the link tree that you see there. Michelle, what is next?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I don't even know when we're on again, but next time you and I, again, we're tackling something. It's something unavoidable. But probably, I don't even, oh my gosh, I was like October. Like we're going to be on, I'm like, I don't know, Arvin, time is flying by. I don't even know what day of the week it is. So watch for the next episode, but we're going to continue with this Unavoidables series for till probably October. And then we'll be bringing back some guests, and we are a, featured media partner for FETC. And so along the way, we'll be bringing in FETC spotlight speakers and starting to get some energy around the conference happening in January. So watch for that as well. So thanks everyone for coming. It was a pleasure getting to know you more. And I love the conversation, Arvin.
Same. We'll catch you guys later. See ya.
All right. Bye.